All right, good morning, guys. It is Storm Talk on this alert day. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. Good morning. Hope you guys had a good Derby weekend. I know yesterday was a bit wild on the weather side. Just a quick note, by the way, on that. We do have, of course, the two EF1s that at least been confirmed so far by the Weather Service there out of New Albany, northern New Albany, around the IUS campus, southeast, where we did have significant damage there, especially in that one little section near the campus itself on Grantline Road. And then obviously in the southern part of Floyd County, not too far away from the sporting club there at the farm, certainly did have significant damage there. Lake Dreamland area is what is on tap for today. In western Jefferson County, we saw the rotation. I saw the rotation at my house, actually, in the afternoon when I was passing by Fairdale and moved right into northern areas of Bullitt County. But it was a lot weaker at that point, and we didn't get as many damage reports as well as it moved further into Jefferson County and then moved out into Bullitt. Shelby County, that area so far from what we've been able to determine was a straight line wind event. And there at that spot, I know a lot of folks said they saw a funnel cloud, but that's the report we got now. The question was, a lot of you have asked, why didn't we have a tornado warning that was issued in this kind of scenario? We did have severe thunderstorm warnings that came out. The complex setup in these kind of scenarios, especially when you got a line of storms, what we call an MCS, or you get the line that wiggles at times, those type of tornadoes are usually relatively weak. You rarely will get anything stronger than EF1. It can happen, but it's rare. Most of the time, they're EF0 to EF1 type tornadoes, and usually they're about 20 seconds of a touchdown. The problem is the radar itself. Back in the day, you may remember a lot of TV stations, and ours included, would have a radar beam that was live, or live Doppler, if we will. The problem with that is that Doppler sees one scan of a storm, one spot. And you have to, because the Earth is curved, you have to adjust the radar beam as it gets closer to you to keep up with the layer that you're beaming into, the beam is going into. If you're not, you're going to miss where the damage winds or the spin's taking place. You end up showing light rain or whatever the case may be, and there actually could be a tornado underneath where you're pointing at. So live radars have gone away, and not only are they very expensive to use, but they are dangerous in that sense that you have to constantly babysit them. So the Weather Service technology came out 1996, I believe was the NEXRAD program. They came out with a Doppler radar the Weather Service uses. We have them in our systems. That's what you see that we show on air. And that radar takes about 2 to 2.5 minutes to do a complete scan up and down. Then we get the image. You sacrifice time. It's not a live scan into the storm, but you get a complete scan of it. So you got to decide, is that worth the wait of 2 minutes to get a complete scan? 98% of the time, yes, that is worth it. In this scenario, you can get a tornado that can form, touch down, go back in the cloud again within that update window. So it's hard to issue warning until you get an idea that something did actually form. And usually the damage reports are the tall tale sign. The damage reports are delayed. So by the time I was moving by, it was a bit late on that. So I hope that makes sense on the technology side of it. Typically, storms, when they start to rotate and develop a strong updraft, and you get to the point where you know a tornado is going to form, we can tell by the radar 15 minutes in some cases on what the storm's trying to do as it approaches. And that gives us a big heads up to issue tornado warnings that you typically would see on stormy days. Okay, enough of that. Now, we do have a scenario of both scenarios today where we can get brief little spin-ups that can form along a line, and we can get a few isolated supercells that will form today that could also have an isolated tornado threat. Hail is something we're also going to watch today, and certainly the straight-line wind threat is the leader of both of those for this afternoon. So where do we stand on this? Well, let's start with the severe outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. They had updated about an hour ago. No change to this, not shocking. It is a slight risk, certainly setup type of day. I'll break it down a little more on the threats in a second. And then we're good. After we get past this round, the atmosphere is going to relax, calm down, reset. So we got a nice couple of days coming our way here, which is certainly some good news. Okay. So currently outside, we've got actually more of a gloomy scenario down into E-Town, but the sun's coming out for those of you around Louisville and Indiana. You're getting a decent amount of sun at the moment. That is about to change, though, in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Here's why. We have that sun breaking out, as you can see there across Indiana, Salem, Paoli, more of a partly cloudy sky at the moment, giving a bit of false hope. Now, this is happening at 9:45 in the morning. That's not a prime heating time of day. So we're not really gaining a lot of heating right now with it happening at this point in the morning because we do have rain that is approaching from the northwest. Notice there are no warnings for that coming out because it is just a general line of rain and thunder that's coming through across Indiana. And again, we had rain and clouds for the morning hours, so we don't have an exact prime setup right now for southern Indiana as these approach. The bigger question is, will this line fall apart between now and, say, 12 to 1 o'clock today? Because the game plan here is that it will. Now, I'm going to show you a model in a second of what I think is probably the best way to handle this, but this is a big piece here. Is this fading out? It's got to fade out to get a severe risk to really begin to ramp up. So I guess in a way, we don't want it to, right? Because this is not going to be severe as it approaches. This is going to be a general heavy rain, thunder kind of scenario that is going to increase. But again, it's not going to be overly severe. So this would help in taming, but it's not relatively wide, as you'll see in a second. So overall, I do think the trend right now is to try to get a 2 weekend in the next few hours and fall apart. Temperatures in the 60s. It is going to be a much more of a muggy feel to the air today as we do have a chance to get into the 80s once this batch of clouds does, and this rain here, does what it's going to do. Let me show you what it looks like. Look how narrow it is. See, it isn't very much a wide band, and certainly there's a trend to get it a little more on the narrow side, skinny side, as it approaches Evansville. It's really losing its kick. Certainly the batch that's a little more pronounced here on the northern side is going to last longer. So it is going to rain for those of you in Orange County, Washington County, already starting to into Jackson and Lawrence, all the way into Jennings. It is going to rain. You're going to get rain and thunder, in fact. That is heading your way. And this could make it all the way to Louisville. It's possible it could. Will it make it past Louisville? Very doubtful it will. So it's got a lifespan to it. And the only reason why it's even in the forecast through lunch is because of its forward motion. It's slowing down, but it's still got a good speed to it, moving to the east here, but it's weakening at the same time. Pay more attention, though, not so much to the green and yellow and the lightning and the pretty colors here. Pay more attention to the general cloud deck. This is mainly high clouds, by the way, outside of on either side here of the rain. These high clouds, too, will be a factor. How quickly would they thin out to allow us to get back to a sunny scenario? I will tell you right now, the modeling is varying right now from 72 degrees this afternoon to about 86 this afternoon. Big difference on the amount of warming that we'll have. And it's all last minute warming, too. It's all after we get past whatever happens here at lunch, more about 3 or 4 o'clock that it tries to really warm us up to that point. Now, if we get to 86, couple of things. One, we will have a little more of a capping probably to the atmosphere, but at the same time, anything that moves in would be relatively violent as far as certainly its damaging wind potential and hail that comes to the area. So 86 would not be a good thing. 72 would be still a chance at severe weather. You can still get severe weather at 72 this afternoon. I think right now we're going to split hairs, as we tend to do in weather, and we're going to go with about 80. Right in the middle. But there is some room here to balance that out and adjust as we determine how much of this cloud canopy thins as we head into after lunch. But between now and lunch, it will be relatively cloudy just because of this band of moisture moving through. Okay, so let me show you the wider view on this. You can see there's not much really happening other than east of Nashville and this band of rain, which really on the wider view, you really see it shrinking down, right? This is not going to be the issue, though, for us on severe weather today. This is just an interruption. An inconvenience, if you will, as we head toward lunch. We're watching, because this low was spinning here into areas of the Midwest, we are watching this spoke right here. You can see it dive right there in south of Kansas City. Let me get rid of my pretty drawings so you can see it. Just south of Kansas City. So that little push right there, the little band, the arc. This is going to expand a bit more, and this is going to move more east as we head into this afternoon and evening. That is going to look more into a line that's going to be more like this. You're going to have a low about here, and you're going to have a band of rain and storms that'll be more horizontal. It's not going to be straight up and down squall line, all right? It's going to be a horizontal type of look here. There will be some parts of this that will bow out, that will be bowled faster. It'll be moving faster than other parts. What we will watch here is if that happens, you can get a mini north-south look briefly in the line because it's being tilted, because that line's bowling out. It'll tilt part of the line. If it starts to tilt a little more north-south as it moves into our area, that is when I think we need to watch for any tornado threat. Otherwise, the bowing part would be a damaging wind. Any tilt in the line to try to get it more north-south can certainly contain a little more of a tornado threat to it. So there's a lot to watch, and it's all based on a lot of ifs, because there are a lot of models that are just really all over the place here. They've got lines over here, lines over here, lines. I mean, it's all over the place. It is a very low confidence setup on how this is going to play out, because you're dealing with basically playing like ping pong, if you will. They're all bouncing off each other. One leads to the condition of how the other one will form. So it's not a clear cut front moving in kind of thing. So it's much more complex than that. But I do think that we're seeing some agreement so far. This is my opinion on this, that this is going to be more of an east-west line that'll be settling in as we head into this afternoon and evening. The time frame on that is going to vary, but if I had to nail it down, because you're going to ask me, I'm sure someone's going to ask me, is going to be roughly, I would say 6 to 9 p.m. That's standing out right now in my head from what I've seen on the data. It could be faster, it could be slower, but 6 to 9 is the way it's looking right now for our warning level potentially to start to kick in. All right, so let me show you the severe risk, where we stand from the Storm Prediction Center. First up, there's the muggy air. Yeah, I already told you it's going to be muggy. You already know that. Okay, because dew points, again, are going to get close to 70 this afternoon, which is more July-like than May. The outlook from the Storm Prediction Center is a slight risk, and my pen is yellow, so you can't see that I'm drawing yellow. But imagine that I'm drawing more east-west with the pen, and you can see how they drew the outlook. So they are basically seeing the same thing so far that I've noticed as well. There's going to be more of an east-west look to this as it sinks to the south. Your tornado potential, again, everyone's in the slight risk. Your tornado potential is a low-end risk. Because this is not a high sheared environment. There's some to allow for tornado potential, but this is not off the chains wind potential aloft. This has just enough gas to make it to the point of being severe. It's more about the individual cells and how they play off each other, creating spins. That's where you get more of your tornado threat, as the storms kind of making it themselves, if you will. Not so much the environment is overly primed for tornadoes. So the tornado threat is low for that reason, but it's certainly not zero. And yesterday is a prime example. Yesterday we had a marginal risk that was out, and we got least 2 tornadoes out of that. And again, Lake Dreamland area, again, is being evaluated today. We'll let you know what that was. I got a feeling it will probably be rated a tornado based on where the spin passed all the way through Fairdale, but we'll see. But you can get tornadoes in this setup. They're just relatively weak, but they can still cause damage. So a tornado is a tornado. All right. There's no way to, a weak tornado. I hate saying that because it sounds like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a weak tornado because it's different than an EF4. And it is, yes, but it could still be a problem. So I don't ever want to downplay tornadoes, period, because they're a threat no matter what. Straight line wind potential, that is certainly elevated. It has to be in this scenario. This is a value that could go up. It could go up if we find ourselves with temperatures getting into the low to mid 80s today. We may find ourselves in much more of a damaging straight line wind scenario, and that would move this up another level. So that's something to watch. Your hail threat is same because you're dealing with a high dew points. You've got temperatures in the 80s potentially today. It's leading to a very unstable type setup. Actually, they call it moderately unstable, but it's very unstable in terms of what we've had as of late. So you can get large hailstones out of this. I'll show you the hail potential in a second. You see the hash lines back here to the west, those hash marks to the west. This is more indicative of around Evansville of hail that could get up to about baseball size in some areas today. It could get quite large when they initially form. Right now, that threat looks more west than it does here. But I do think we're going to get several hail reports out of this today. At the very least, a lot of pea-size hail reports, but we can get some quarter and golf ball size hail out of these today. So be mindful of that. Hopefully nothing that's going to be too large, but it can be primed for it. All right, let me show you. This is the HER model. It's updating right now. I'm not sure if it's going to show you the new update. Let's see if it does. Let me advance it because I'll know. It did. Okay, good. So it has updated to the new frames that I was looking at when I was trying to get everything loaded up and run out here to the studio. But it weakens the line dramatically for lunch today. Falls apart. Still a lot of high clouds, though. Mostly cloudy type setup. That's at 1:30. Now we're getting to 5:30. Still mostly cloudy, but these are real thin. The HER model tends to look really bad on cloud cover on this model than what the reality is. They are likely very, very thin. So this could be more partly sunny. You're going to be casting a shadow walking around this afternoon. Are you going to get some sun here? How much heating, though, is crucial in this. It's got us at 77. I did look. Its max potential was 79, I believe, is what it was taking us to today. We've got 80 in the forecast, so I think we're pretty close to where this is going to be. It's 5:30 in the afternoon. Now let me advance it. Here we go. They pop. Now we're after the 6 o'clock window. We're getting to between 6 and 9. This is closer to 8:30. But that's going to change. Sometimes it's a little faster than what the models say. But I want you to look more, not so much at the timing right now, but more at the placement. It's, again, an east-west type look. And initially, there will be individual cells. That's where your health threat will be the threat first. When they first pop on the radar and they don't have friends yet. All right, they're basically isolated introvert cells. When they're like that, that's when they're most dangerous on hill than anything. And that's the reason why you see the pink showing up around Evansville. Perfect example why you saw the hash marks in that area for baseball size hail, because again, they are likely in the prime spot for the individual cells to first pop. Once you get past that phase, they all bump into each other. Then you end up with a more organized line that tries to form. And then you end up getting into straight line winds and you get into your hail potential. This is now 10:30 at night. Look at that. That's nasty, nasty, nasty. This is a line that this look here is featuring two individual supercells that are trying to merge together. But these would have some hail threat, certainly. But you would have a tornado threat certainly trying to form, as well as straight line winds. How much of this develops as we head all the way into, say, all the way into Cincinnati area, that's still being worked out. But it's kind of the general spot we got to watch for these to kind of form. But you see it's already pushing. It's trying to tug that line straight down toward Tennessee rapidly. So it gets a little more tilted at that point. Here we go. And we get after midnight and we're quiet. And we're going to stay quiet after this point. We're done. The front has passed us. Quiet weather for tomorrow. So it's only an evening threat right now that I see that we need to watch. Here's your hail potential for this afternoon, evening. Look at that hail size. Now, here's the thing on this particular model. It shows it really, really large. Sometimes, what is that? that it's showing. I can't even read it. Tennis ball. Tennis ball to larger than that. It's off the scale, actually. The thing is that these kind of hailstones, when they form, one thing this does not account for, this is a potential hail size. When you get above 75, especially but get closer to 80 and on up, the hailstones are large in the storm, but when they fall, they do melt. They do have a time to get past the cloud, get to the tree line, then hit the ground. There is some melting, so they do shrink in size on a warm, humid day scenario like this. How much, though, just depends on how warm we get today. So I do think sometimes this number is a little high on the estimation, and then you'll see it a little lower in reality, but still not so much paying attention to the number or the size. Pay attention to where it has it, and then we lose it after that relatively quick. Your potential for rotation, this is what a lot of you guys love, is this chart for any rotating storms. These rotating tracks, it's interesting that it's pointing out on these supercells around Evansville, because now that's a decent signature actually for a tornado. Again, these type of tornadoes in individual cells are different than the ones in a line. Usually the ones in a line are weaker, EF0, EF1. The ones in a cell, those can be a little more on the organized and stronger side and longer lasting, not 30 seconds. They can be on the ground a little longer than that. So those are the ones you got to watch. This signal out of the HER model anyway for Evansville and to Owensboro is quite strong compared to the rest of the area. So if this is right, that's the area to watch this afternoon. We'll see. It's one model update, one model run, but I do think it sees the potential we're going to have here this afternoon, some of these cells being rather intense. And then we're out of the zone on that and things quiet down. All right, I think that's it. I didn't put a time in here, and I should have. Let me see if it's updated or not. I still got to adjust this. Yeah, this is good. This is good. I like this. I like the idea that we've got the midday light rain chance. Again, this is fading, so we may be able to drop this lower when we get closer. I'll watch it for you guys as I get to the midday show today. Then we've got the break. So this is going to be our heating, our quiet period for the mid-afternoon period. Mid to late afternoon in some areas. Then we get into the evening hours, and then we ramp it back up again with the east-west line and the cells popping and organized and then rapidly moving to the south. That's the main window to watch, though, will be this evening. Any questions that I can try to answer? I'll try to go back here, so bear with me because there's a lot of you here. Tiffany, I hope I answered your question on Fern Creek. Again, Fern Creek's the same boat. A lot of you are actually the same boat on timing today. It's going to be an obvious setup that areas along the river and I-64 will be first to see the storms today. If you're down in Greene and Taylor County, you'll be last. Down to Adair, you'll be last to see it. So you'll be closer to the 10 o'clock window. For everyone else, a little closer to the 6 to 8 window, we will likely see this. But we're going to be adjusting that. So I normally would say that's the window we're looking at, but I have low confidence on that myself. So allow us a little bit of a buffer there on the evening, okay? Lauren, I love your drawings. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. I'm really bad about scribbles. Let's see. Lynette, is a concern mainly for Louisville. What about further south in Greensburg? I hope I just answered that, Lynette. It's certainly in central Kentucky we need to watch, but if the HER model is right, it's west of 65 instead of east of 65. That's relatively fair. The problem is with an east-west orientation, these will dive south, but there will be a bit of an east motion too. So I don't think it's fair to say east of 65 will get nothing. I don't think at all that's the case. I think you guys are still in a zone to watch. All right. So I don't want to say that. So let's take that off the table. Is going to shift on us or before us? I'm not sure where you're at, Jocelyn. I'm sorry I didn't see. New Albany. Okay. I think that's what you were saying is you're in New Albany. It will likely be very close to the Ohio River. Will be the first spot that will pop. That's the toughest spot because when they pop, we don't know at what time they will exactly. It depends on when the heating gets to the point the atmosphere is ready. So far, the soundings I've looked at have been aiming about at 80 to 81 degrees is the number that they will likely try to form. But roughly along the river, 64, that spot, that's the first you will see them pop. Evansville area certainly will be the first. All the way along that southern Indiana corridor through in southern Indiana near Louisville, all the way to, say, Owen County, Kentucky. That's the first range to watch. Then we will shift the focus relatively fast south of Louisville, and central and southern Kentucky for the rest of the evening. So it's not an all-nighter here. You don't have to worry about severe weather all night long and keeping the weather radio armed and all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be a relatively quick hitting event that's going to be very obvious when it's happening. So we'll be here watching it. Brandon, do you see SBC upgrading us to enhance risk? Only if the damaging wind threat increases, not tornado threat, but damaging wind threat. If that goes up, if we end up overachieving on some of the heat here today, that is possible because it would be an issue, and certainly on confidence. They have to be confident too, right? These are forecasters in Norman, Oklahoma, that issue the outlooks from SBC. So they have to be confident that they would see something like that form that would contain high damaging winds of 70 to 75 miles per hour. If that potential goes up, then yeah, they would issue a little bit higher of a risk. So I don't want to say no, but right now I think the slide covers it very well. Heavy rain, Nathaniel, yes, there will be very heavy rain with this. Dew points are high, but it's moving, so that's good. But I do think we'll get flood advisories. Some of you could get a flash flood warning. It's possible if they linger, but they will be very heavy rain producers. This is not the kind of rain you want to be driving in. This is a tropical kind of rain. So it's going to be very blinding kind of rainfall coming in the area. Let's see. Extended outlook. I'm going to cover that, Mark, in just a second. Good question. Michael, great explanation on the spin ups. Ready. You're ready today. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. You're always doing great on your photography. So keep us updated, especially around Mount Washington today. When does the first line of storms reach us? If this is going to be a fading line, but it'll be roughly 12 to 1, 12 to 2, something like that. I don't know how much of this is going to hold together. To be honest with you, Jared, it's falling apart relatively fast. So it depends on where you're at. So you may get lucky, and we may get past this midday period without much in the way of rain. Okay. All right. Let's see. Do you have to buy dog food today? Nope, not today. I don't know if you're asking me that or somebody else. Sorry. You could be asking somebody else that question, but I don't have to today, which is good. Jocelyn, is it Jocelyn? Am I saying, or is it Jacelyn? I'm sorry. I can't see the font very well, so I apologize. I was just nervous about the tornado yesterday. Yeah, I get that. When they are brief like that, it is nerve-wracking. I totally understand that. That's what we got to say. We can't rule it out, but damaging wind threat is higher. Jacqueline, thank you so much, Jacqueline. Sorry about that. I was way off. Look, don't rely on me, guys, to pronounce your name right or pronounce anything right. I am the worst about that. I'll always admit that. So I have my faults. Okay, let's get into the outlook real quick down the road for the rest of the week. Getting us into Mother's Day. I mentioned it's going to quiet down Tuesday and Wednesday for the most part. Here's the thing. We're going to get into a summer pattern again relatively fast as we head into Thursday and Friday, where we're going to get more of your typical pop-up showers and storms Thursday and Friday. They could have damaging winds. We could get an isolated severe thunderstorm warning. Very much a July kind of forecast where you got random severe weather happening on the day, and we may not have an outlook for severe weather. You got to keep that in mind. The outlooks for severe weather you see from SBC, they are issued for organized severe weather, not isolated one or two cells. It's organized. That's what they issue the outlooks for. So in this case, I don't know if we'll have much in the way of organization. So the random factor alone would mean that we may not have an outlook for severe, but I wouldn't rule it out. So just be weather aware, certainly if you have plans outside. We get into Mother's Day. We do have an issue here. We do have another front that's going to be diving down at an angle Sunday into Monday, and I do think this will be our next round of severe weather. We may get outlook for this in future updates. What time on Mother's Day? I don't know yet. I don't know, but I can tell you that eventually when the front moves in, it's going to be running into a very humid setup, so it will have plenty of fuel to work with. So that's going to be watched, and then we'll quiet down again for a while next week, and then we'll kind of reset the pattern all over again. All right, guys, I got to run. I got to get ready for midday. I got a lot of graphics to look over, and we got a lot still to look at on modeling. It's coming in right now, so stay tuned. I'm going to have many updates on midday on the noon show as well, and I'll be back at 3 o'clock. So we'll be around off and on throughout the day here, constant updates. So stay close to the Wave Weather app. More to come on this alert day as we're watching for an active setup as we head into this evening, especially with temperatures staying close to 80s. We into this afternoon, low to mid 80s as we head toward the Mother's Day holiday weekend. Stay tuned, guys.